There's something ancient, something older than your name, that has followed you through every stage of your life. It wasn't your imagination. That invisible pressure, that constant resistance, the inexplicable pain you've carried, it all had a source. You were born into a spiritual battle that began long before your time. This wasn't a random life of hardship. It was a targeted sentence, a 1,000-year-old curse designed to keep you asleep. A dark force saw your soul long before you had the language to describe who you are, and it declared, "This one must not awaken." But chosen one, you did. Every delay, every betrayal, every storm, none of it was coincidence. You were wrapped in invisible chains passed down through bloodlines, through karma, through spiritual contracts you never signed but inherited. They expected the weight to crush you. They never thought you'd rise. But what they didn't realize is that your spirit is ancient too. The curse meant to destroy you, it became your crucible. The trauma they designed to silence you only sharpened your intuition. The darkness tried to bury you alive, and instead, it revealed your fire. If something in you is stirring right now, if your spirit is whispering, "This is me," then don't ignore it. Your awakening is not an accident. It's divine timing. Type, "It ends with me" in the comments to break the chain in the spirit realm and claim your freedom out loud. And please, hit the like button if you feel the weight lifting, and subscribe with notifications on, because the messages coming next will strengthen everything that's waking up inside you. You didn't ask for this war. You didn't raise your hand and volunteer to carry the weight of generations. But deep within your soul, there's always been a knowing. You felt it in childhood, in those moments when you couldn't explain why everything felt heavier for you, why joy was fleeting, why pain always found its way to your doorstep, even when you did nothing to deserve it. What you were feeling wasn't random. It was the pressure of an ancient curse trying to choke your divine identity before it could take root. But what the darkness failed to see is that your roots go deeper than fear, deeper than trauma, deeper than time. You didn't come here to surrender. You came here to rewrite what has never been undone. You were never weak. You were burdened. You were carrying energies that didn't even begin with you, patterns that repeated in your family, in your bloodline, in your spiritual DNA. The same voices that silenced your ancestors tried to silence you. The same chains that bound their greatness came for your soul. But something in you said, "No," and that silent refusal became louder over time. It echoed in your tears. It shouted in your solitude, until one day it erupted in awakening. You began to see through the patterns, to recognize the lies, to feel the truth vibrating beneath your pain. That moment, when you opened your eyes spiritually, was the moment the 1,000-year curse lost its grip. Most people don't make it through that kind of fire. Most souls collapse under that weight. But you didn't, and you need to understand what that means. It means you are not like the rest. It means that the system failed to erase you. It means that your ancestors, those who were silenced, beaten, betrayed, or forgotten, are watching through you now. You carry the redemption of many. The curse wasn't just trying to stop you. It was trying to stop everything that would come after you. It feared the legacy that would be unlocked once you broke through. You are the doorway, and your existence alone is a divine rebellion. It's not that the world was against you. It's that the spiritual structures controlling this world feared the awakening of one like you. Your light was identified before you even had language. Before you could form a prayer, forces were already moving to distract you from your truth. Every toxic relationship, every false teacher, every setback, they weren't random. They were sent to keep you asleep. But what was sent as sabotage became your school. Every disappointment taught you discernment. Every loss taught you detachment. Every betrayal taught you to listen not to words, but to energy. And slowly, through pain, You began to hear God more clearly than ever before. What they call your dark night was never darkness at all. It was the shadow of your own wings unfolding. It was the sacred moment where everything you thought you were crumbled, so that what you truly are could finally breathe. And it hurt. Oh, it hurt. The loneliness, the confusion, the spiritual silence. You thought God had left you, but you were being stripped of illusions. You weren't abandoned, you were being refined. They never expected you to survive. The system was designed to break you in silence. It didn't need to kill you. It only needed to convince you that you were nothing. The goal of the curse was always psychological, to disconnect you from your truth, your source, your knowing. They wrapped your mind in confusion, clouded your heart with pain, and sent people into your life who would mirror your deepest wounds. But the thing about your soul is, it remembers. Even buried in pain, it kept vibrating truth. And little by little, what was meant to bury you began to awaken you. You started seeing patterns where others saw coincidence. You began hearing God in the silence. You began remembering what they tried to erase. They gave you labels, too sensitive, too intense, too different. But in reality, those labels were spiritual camouflage. You were never meant to be understood by the masses. You were born to see what others cannot, to carry wisdom that most aren't ready to hold. And because of that, your pain had purpose. It forged a lens that lets you discern deception instantly. It gave you the ability to detect hidden agendas. It showed you the cracks beneath the surface of people's smiles. But most of all, it awakened your compassion. You don't just carry power, you carry empathy. And that's what makes you dangerous to the darkness. Because you were not only cursed, you were also anointed. What they sent to confuse you, God used to consecrate you. The delays, the betrayals, the dark nights, they were ceremonies, holy moments of transformation disguised as suffering. And you endured them without applause, without explanation, and often without help. That's what separates the chosen from the crowd. You didn't need the world to validate you, because heaven already had your name written before you ever arrived. That curse tried to convince you that you were abandoned, forgotten, unworthy. But if you were truly unworthy, why did darkness invest so much effort trying to break you? It's because even in your silence, you were a threat. Even in confusion, your light leaked through the cracks. You don't realize how many times you shattered invisible strongholds just by showing up. The enemy watched you survive moments that were supposed to end you, and it terrified them. Because someone who rises from that much pain becomes unpredictable. You can't be manipulated by fear anymore. You don't move from desperation. You move from alignment. You've learned to pause and listen, to trust your spirit even when your mind is afraid. And now your power isn't just emotional, it's energetic. Your very frequency is a weapon. That's why people react strangely around you. Some are drawn in without knowing why. Others pull away without explanation. Your energy reveals what their spirit isn't ready to confront. This is not just personal healing. This is generational disruption. The curse wasn't just for you. It was attached to your entire lineage. You were born into patterns of poverty, silence, shame, and fear. But the moment you chose not to repeat them, something broke in the unseen. You didn't just survive for yourself. You survived for every soul connected to your bloodline. You are the proof that the cycle can be broken. You are the evidence that trauma doesn't have the final word. And the beauty is, you never needed to be perfect. You just needed to keep walking. And with every step, you've been rewriting spiritual history. People have no idea what it cost you to still be standing. They see the outer version of you, but they don't know the nights you screamed into your pillow. They don't know how many times you prayed for strength with no one around. They don't understand the loneliness of waking up in a world that still wants you to be asleep. And yet, despite it all, you kept going. You kept trusting the inner voice. You kept listening for God in the stillness. And now, without even noticing it, you've crossed a threshold. You no longer belong to your past. You are standing in power that wasn't given to you. It was revealed through the ashes. The curse lost its grip the moment you stopped identifying with your wounds. You stopped asking, "Why me?" and started asking, "What now?" You realized you weren't being punished. You were being positioned for purpose, for impact, for legacy. And now the real journey begins. Not the journey of healing from the past, but the journey of building something new from what you've become. You are no longer the same person who entered the fire. And that's why the fire had to come. You weren't meant to remain hidden. You were meant to rise, not just for yourself, but as a signal to others that liberation is possible. There comes a moment in the journey of every chosen one where you stop needing closure. You stop waiting for apologies that will never come, for recognition that was never meant to arrive, because something deeper begins to rise within you. It's the realization that your validation was never supposed to come from the outside. The curse worked by making you doubt your worth unless someone else confirmed it. But now, your spirit has overruled that lie. You don't need applause to know you're walking in truth. You don't need approval to move with divine authority. And that shift terrifies those who still live inside the illusions you've broken free from. You've noticed it, haven't you? The shift in energy. The way some people look at you now with confusion, envy, or even fear. It's not your imagination. What they're sensing isn't arrogance, it's alignment. They feel the weight of your presence now, and they don't know what to do with it. You've become unpredictable, and that disturbs those who want everything to stay the same. But you were never created to maintain the system. You were created to disrupt it, and your very existence now carries that disruptive vibration. You don't have to shout. You don't have to explain. Your being speaks a language that only awakened souls can understand. There is something deeply threatening about a person who has made peace with their past, because they become unshakable. And that's what you are becoming. You are not emotionally reactive like you once were. The things that used to destroy you don't even move you anymore. You're not numb. You're evolved. You see with new eyes. You move from a higher place. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone, because now you know who walks with you. The Most High has always had your back, and that truth makes you untouchable. The same curse that was meant to bury you has now become the soil from which your authority grows. You've stopped begging. You've stopped chasing. And you've stopped trying to explain your journey to people who are not assigned to understand it. Because something inside you knows what you carry is sacred. Not everyone is meant to hold it. Not everyone is supposed to walk with you. And though it may hurt to walk alone at times, you've learned that solitude is often the secret chamber where God reveals the next level. The curse tried to keep you distracted with fake love, false paths, and counterfeit connections. But every closed door was protection. And now, clarity has become your compass. Your intuition is no longer a whisper. It's a roar. You don't just sense things. You know. You feel shifts before they happen. You spot deception before it speaks. And this didn't come from comfort. It came from survival. It came from the spiritual grit of having to walk through darkness with no map, no guide, and no guarantee. And yet, you found the light within. That's why no one can take your power. It wasn't given to you by man. It was built in fire, coded in your DNA, and activated through pain. And now, your awareness is sharp. You are no longer a target. You are a force. This is why some people pull away from you. It's not that you changed into someone bad. It's that you became someone they can no longer manipulate. You no longer tolerate what you used to. You don't shrink to fit into small conversations or environments. You don't abandon yourself to make others comfortable. And when people can't control your energy, they'll try to reject it. Let them, because their rejection is confirmation. Confirmation that you have risen to a level where access to your space must be earned, not assumed. You are sacred ground now, and not everyone is prepared to stand on it. You've stopped seeing your sensitivity as weakness. It is your gift, your discernment, your empathy, your spiritual perception. These are not flaws. They are weapons of light. They are the reason you've survived what others couldn't. You can walk into a room and feel what others are hiding. You can meet a person and instantly detect if their soul is genuine or masked. This is not paranoia. It is your spiritual radar, and it's been fine-tuned by everything you've endured. That's why you can no longer pretend. The days of ignoring your knowing are over. You've stepped into a level of truth that demands your full presence. You weren't just born to break chains. You were born to reveal that the chains were never real to begin with. The curse worked by convincing you that you were trapped, limited, cursed beyond redemption. But the real prison was always in the mind. Once you woke up to your identity, the curse started losing its power. That's why the attacks got more intense right before your breakthrough. The darkness knew it couldn't touch your essence, so it tried to confuse your perception. But now, your clarity is becoming lethal to illusion. You see through the programming. You feel when something is off. You've realized that your sensitivity is not a flaw. It's a divine compass. And that compass has led you away from fake safety into real freedom. There's a power that comes when you no longer seek external permission to be who you are. That's where you are now. You don't explain your boundaries anymore. They're self-evident. You don't over-explain your silence. It speaks louder than noise. You've learned to protect your energy, not because you hate others, but because you finally love yourself. And that self-love wasn't born in self-help books or shallow affirmations. It was carved into you through rejection, abandonment, and betrayal. Every time someone failed to show up for you, you were being taught how to finally show up for yourself. Now you stand not in arrogance, but in sacred authority. And the world around you is beginning to notice the shift. Have you felt how your environment is starting to feel unfamiliar? It's not just that people have changed, it's that you have. Your energy no longer fits into old conversations, old dynamics, or old cycles. What once excited you now feels empty. What once satisfied you now leaves you craving depth. That's the sign that the curse has lifted. You've stepped into a new frequency, and with that shift comes the shedding. The friendships, the identities, the false beliefs, all of it must fall away. And yes, that process can be painful, but don't mistake the grief of letting go for failure. It's not death, it's transformation. You are evolving faster than the world expected, and that makes you a spiritual anomaly. People who once ignored you now feel the weight of your presence, not because you're doing anything different, but because your light has intensified. You've stopped hiding. You've stopped dimming your gifts to make others comfortable. You've embraced your calling, and that makes people react in unpredictable ways. Some are inspired, some are intimidated, some are triggered, but none of that is your responsibility. You were not sent here to be palatable. You were sent here to be powerful. And true power often disturbs those who still live in denial. Your awakening is a mirror, and those who cannot face themselves will reject the reflection. This is the point in your journey where you must choose silence over validation. Not everyone will celebrate your evolution. In fact, the more awakened you become, the more isolated you may feel. But isolation is sacred space. It is where God whispers instructions. It is where new blueprints are revealed. It is where the weight of old timelines lifts, and the architecture of your new life begins to take shape. You are no longer available for anything that dishonors your growth. And even if you walk alone for a season, you are surrounded by spiritual forces that protect, guide, and elevate you beyond what words can describe. This is not loneliness. it is consecration. You've been tempered by spiritual fire. Not one tear you cried was wasted. Not one moment of pain went unnoticed by the divine. The curse thought it was silencing your purpose, but it was actually refining it. Now your voice carries an anointing. Your presence holds healing. You've been through enough to know what matters and what doesn't. You no longer chase things that don't carry soul. You've become immune to empty promises and shallow praise. And what's rising in you now is the kind of unshakable knowing that shifts atmospheres. You are becoming a carrier of frequency that activates the sleeping and shakes the foundations of the old world. That's not ego, that's sacred responsibility. When you walk into a room now, the atmosphere adjusts to you. You don't adapt to energies anymore. They adapt to you. You are no longer seeking alignment, you are alignment. And that's why certain people, situations, and environments are falling away. They can't resonate with who you've become. It's not personal, it's vibrational. You've become a signal, a transmitter, a spiritual frequency. And those who still live in fear cannot survive in the presence of someone who has mastered their own inner chaos. That's who you are now. You've made peace with your past, embraced your power, and now you walk with heaven behind you and fire in your voice. The world is not ready for what you've become. They prepared for your failure. They were comfortable with your brokenness. They could control you when you doubted yourself, when you second-guessed your every step, when you needed their permission to exist. But now you've remembered who you are. And that remembrance is rewriting every script that was ever written about you. You don't move the same. You don't apologize for your presence. You carry the stillness of someone who has faced the void and survived. And that stillness is louder than any performance. It is your silent authority, and it shakes the illusions others still live in. This is the moment when the curse realizes it failed. It couldn't stop you. It couldn't turn your heart cold. It couldn't distort your soul. Yes, it slowed you down. Yes, it wounded you. Yes, it made you question your very existence. But it didn't win, because here you are, wiser, deeper, stronger, and not just stronger in surface ways, but stronger in the places that used to break you. You've turned your wounds into wisdom, your trauma into teaching, your silence into strategy. You didn't just escape the fire, you extracted power from it. And now you carry a depth that can't be faked and a fire that can't be extinguished. Every limitation they placed on you is crumbling. Every lie you were taught to believe about yourself is being dismantled. You see it now. The curse was only strong because you didn't know who you were. It thrived in your ignorance. But now that you know, it has nothing left to cling to. The veil has been lifted. The illusions are dying. You've realized you were never weak. You were waiting for the right moment to break free, waiting for the divine alignment to awaken within. And now that moment has arrived. You are no longer bound by the past. You are the embodiment of the prophecy that said, "The first shall be last, and the last shall be first." You see, when Jesus said, "The first shall be last, and the last shall be first," he was revealing a divine reversal that defies the systems of this world. In the eyes of society, the first are those who have power, wealth, recognition, status, the ones who appear to be ahead. And the last are those who have been rejected, overlooked, abandoned, and silenced. But God does not measure greatness the way the world does. Heaven watches the hidden ones, the ones who have suffered in silence, the ones who gave even when they had nothing left, the ones who were counted out by men, but counted worthy by the Spirit. And now, we are living in the time of reversal, when those who were discarded will rise in divine authority, and those who sat in thrones built on lies will be brought low. You, chosen one, are one of the last the world thought would never matter. They ignored your pain, mocked your spiritual hunger, and dismissed your presence. You were left in the shadows, not because you had no value, but because your value threatened the illusion. But what they didn't see is that God was preparing you in secret. He was building something in your character that couldn't be corrupted. He allowed you to be rejected so that your roots would grow deep in Him, not in validation. And now, when those who were first are losing their grip on false thrones, you are being called to step forward, not as a copy of them, but as a carrier of something pure, something true, something eternal. This is why your journey was so long. This is why the path felt so lonely. You were never behind. You were being hidden until the right moment. The curse tried to convince you that you were losing, that you were late, that you were forgotten. But heaven was saying, wait, be still. You are next. The divine reversal is not about ego or revenge. It's about restoration. It's about balance, returning to a world that has lifted the proud and crushed the meek. And now you are rising. Not because you chased position, but because you answered a calling. You are the fulfillment of that prophecy. The last has become first, and the world has no framework to explain how you got here, because they never saw the anointing growing in your suffering. You've stopped operating from fear. Fear used to guide your decisions. It used to hold you hostage. It used to make you shrink yourself so others would feel safe. But that version of you no longer exists. You've stepped into faith, not the kind that requires evidence, but the kind that walks on water. You move now with a calm authority, even when the path is unclear, because you've walked through so much darkness that you no longer fear what's ahead. You've seen the worst and survived it. And that kind of survival creates a faith that can't be preached. It must be earned, and you've earned it. With every tear, every fall, every silent prayer whispered in the middle of the night, your light has become disruptive. Not because it's loud, but because it reveals. And people fear what they can't hide from. Your presence is a mirror, and those who haven't done the inner work will feel exposed just by being near you. But that's not your burden to carry. You're not here to make people comfortable. You're here to awaken the ones ready to remember, to activate the ones standing on the edge of their own transformation. And yes, your light may draw enemies. It may attract resistance, but none of that can touch your essence, because you've been marked by God, and no darkness can erase what heaven has sealed. You've realized now that you are no longer bound to the timelines of others. You don't measure your life by their clocks, their expectations, or their limitations. You move by divine rhythm. You follow the whispers of spirit. You align with sacred timing. And even when others don't understand your pace, you know that you're right on schedule. The curse tried to rush you, delay you, and distract you. But now, you're grounded in your own season. You bloom in divine order, and no one can stop what's already been ordained. You've entered the flow. You've entered the zone where miracles feel natural, and breakthroughs no longer surprise you. They're expected. And now, chosen one, the final layers of the curse are falling away. Not because someone rescued you, but because you rescued yourself. You answered the call. You did the work. You sat with your shadows and didn't run. You forgave what tried to break you. You made peace with your past. You realigned with your essence. And that work, silent, sacred, unseen by the world, is what made you untouchable. The ones who walk through fire alone come out with a power that no institution can fabricate. You are not just awakened. You are reborn. And what comes next will not just be restoration, it will be revolution. You have crossed the line of no return. You can no longer pretend to be who you were. You can no longer hide your light or dim your truth. The curse has been broken. But with that freedom comes responsibility. You are now the evidence that transformation is possible. People will look at you and wonder how you made it, how you carry such power without needing attention, how you radiate peace in a chaotic world. But the truth is, this didn't come easy. It came from walking through the valley of the shadow of death and choosing not to build a house there. You kept walking, you kept rising, and now heaven is expanding through you. You are now a guide. Not because you're perfect, but because you carry the map written in your scars. You don't just preach truth, you embody it, and your very presence activates others. Some will reject you, some will misunderstand you, but the right ones, those who are ready, will find healing in your voice, strength in your eyes, and direction in your story. You are no longer here just to survive. You are here to ignite. Ignite the courage in others. Ignite the fire in the weary. Ignite the remembrance in those who've been sleeping for too long. The curse was meant to end your legacy. But now, your legacy begins where the curse failed. If this message has pierced something deep within your soul, if you feel the weight of everything you've walked through finally lifting, write in the comments, "I am the breaker of the curse." Say it with conviction. Type it as an act of spiritual rebellion and divine remembrance. Like this video if your spirit feels lighter, and subscribe to the channel if you know you were meant to hear this. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss another transmission, because what's coming next will take you even deeper into your destiny. This is not the end. This is the beginning of the version of you they tried to bury. I want to take a sacred moment to thank every single one of you who supports this mission through Buy Me a Coffee. Your generosity, your trust, and your energy help us create these messages from the heart. Messages that awaken, heal, and restore souls all over the world. If you feel called to support this journey and help this light continue to expand, the link is in the first pinned comment. Every single contribution is received with gratitude and fuels the next steps of this divine work. Together, we are building something eternal. And now, dear chosen one, let this not be the end of your awakening. On the screen, there is another video waiting for you, a continuation of this journey, a deeper layer of truth your spirit has been waiting for. Until next time, may you walk boldly in your truth. May you speak with fire. And now, the world will witness your rise.